Hi, welcome back to the concluding session of day one of Odisha Design Week. Our final session of the day is the very dashing looking Anthony Lopez. Tony is the founder and principal of Lopez Design. He guides his studio practice with clear purpose of delivering path-breaking solutions in order to give his clients a distinct edge. Anthony embraces collaborative practices, and interdisciplinary engagement, and has garnered the expertise to do large and complex branding, spatial, and wayfinding projects for both businesses and organizations. Tony is here to talk about what it means for a brand to have cultural context. Tony, over to you.
Thank you, Suresh, and thank you, Paresh, if he's still listening, for inviting me over and for pulling off this fantastic event. You've been working on it for many years, so hats off to you and your team too. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a couple of slides, and largely the whole presentation is revolving around the way basically my journey of life has taken me to think in a certain manner, right, and then bring it into the work. And so I'll try and build that context and then show you examples of how we have delivered it in our projects. Yeah, so I'm just going to share my screen. If my slides are getting delayed or if I'm going too fast, so one of you can just
Yeah, we
raise your
can.
hand or yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, just go for, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So hey, I normally start with this particular slide is just because I think more and more as we move forward, we always have a younger audience to talk to, and hopefully influence. You'll typically see this slide coming up time and again in my presentation because I'm shifting topics, right, from one subject to another. So I say that before you blink in your head so that you know that there's a shift in the topic happening. These are two lovely puppies, and we've had them since I think about a year and a half back, and they became very much part of our life. But it's like as a child, I always wanted dogs in my life, right, in my home, but could never have them or afford to have them because of different conditions. And finally, when we built our own home, we got these two lovely puppies off the streets. We adopted them. But day one, the moment they came into the house, they created havoc. They started peeing, started shitting, they started doing all sorts of things across the house, right? And I was not used to this lifestyle, and it entirely disturbed my entire, way of existence in many ways. And I had to, yet basically they were hugely adorable and lovable. So they became part of our life, and they became a big change in my life, right? So and I had to change myself in order to accommodate them in my life, and that was a big thing to happen for me. My attitude towards tolerating things which were not in my control, changed totally. And I think that basically as people, as we grow in life, we try and define everything or design everything around us so that it suits us. And when we get into that comfort zone, we life continues day in and day out. And I think that it's important that disruptions come in our life in various ways, and sometimes you bring it by design. uh, yeah, so these are the heroes now. And this was, yeah, a few months back. Now I'm blinking. So the context, basically, I'm saying that how as designers we can reimagine design, but I always felt very strongly about being part of this country, right? So reimagining design through India, and why is it necessary to do this at all points of time? The other point, basically, I always feel that design is most misunderstood among the converted, among us as designers. And I think when we say us as designers, it's a very wide gamut of people who are involved in the business of design in various levels, right? And I feel that the most important part of what we are doing is about the strategic intervention. I think design has got two large components. If we just broadly divide it into two parts, one is the strategic component, and the other one is the aesthetics or the craftsmanship of producing something, right? And I think craftsmanship is critical, and that's what we learn in our schools and colleges and entire grooming. And the strategic component, the why of what you do is and how you do it is very, very critical, right? I'm again shifting. Again, I've jumped a couple of slides from my earlier presentation. So another very important aspect for all of us to consider, because here we're talking about culture and design influencing culture, or culture influencing design, either way, both ways. But there is another change happening, which is technology is enabling that change, which is happening at a much faster pace to predict its true outcome. We all know that there are certain phases of technology which has come into our social life, and there were disruptions which happened, and there were good and bad aspects, both which came out of it, right? And but to realize that, it took us some time, right? Unlike basically the times when we had the old telephone systems, right? And there was enough research happening for us to know the outcomes of it over a period of time. And by the time basically when we realize anything, or proper laws can come into place, that technology has already shifted its plane. Yeah, and thereby basically as people, as simple people, and as designers also, we need to be agile and adaptable much faster. This is very briefly. I hope you all know who this gentleman is. So this is introducing myself. So I am Anthony Lopez, and I'm very much Indian, born and brought up in India. And when people hear my name, or they read my name, they think basically I'm from Mexico or from South America, one of the places there. Sometimes people think I'm related to JLo, you know. And when basically I speak over the phone, when I seek an appointment in a company for a boss, the lady on the other side says Malayali Amo, thinking I'm a Keralite, fellow Keralite. Uh, so that's the fun of for me basically as a person. I go through these phases for people, right? And then finally they realize, oh, this guy is neither from Goa nor from Kerala, and definitely not from anywhere outside, right? And that's basically the fun of being an Anthony Lopez in India. One of the I'll speak about luck as a very important factor in my thinking, and how it has come about for me to realize of where do I stand. But throughout my journey and my father's journey, I mean, luck played a very important role in placing us at the right moment at the right time, uh, uh, and thereby something better happening in our lives. Yeah. So this is my family many years back, and this is soon after my father had joined NID and had returned from a training course in Switzerland and Germany, and you can see him proudly wearing his coat, me wearing the bow tie, and my sisters wearing the socks, which are all from abroad. But you should notice my father's shoe, so it's all worn out, right? So it was tough for him to bring up three children and manage a family and stuff like that. And his proud moment was a cycle, right? So when he got himself a cycle, and it was a great thing for me also, because I kept playing with it all the time. This is not very different from how I look now in terms of my hairstyle, but this is what I looked like when I just passed out of NID. Uh, yeah. So this is a slide which I show in all my presentations in context to, it's a lottery ticket, as you already guessed. But and this is the number which is the population of India. I think it is now increased to 1.39, coming very close to the population of China, which is 1.4 something. And I show this slide to say that that I am one of 1.39 billion people presenting in front of you, right? So, and thereby I'm fortunate to be present here, and I'm thankful to be present here. And it's important for me to understand, and all of us to understand, that we have been very lucky to be where we are, in life, because there are many people who have not got that sort of luck, and it's important to acknowledge that, and important to understand that, and to see where do I stand in that context. But in context to luck, I'm shifting the plane now. It's not just pure simple luck, but taking it to the very core of the aspect of free will, which Sam Harris talks about in his book, Free Will. Yeah, uh, and 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 he actually is underlining the factor of ending faith. But I'll shift to something relevant to what I've been talking about, where he says that you can't take credit for your talent, but it matters that you use them. But you can't be really blamed for your weakness, but it matters that you correct them. So pride and shame do not make a lot of sense. In the final analysis, they won't fund much anyway, right? So the aspect of that a lot of us, you know, uh, have great pride in our talent, or in our capabilities, but where does that come from? It has come from it's not yours. It's purely by luck that you have got it, in the first place, or the fact that you have got great education, right? All these things, all these chances which have happened in your life. But once you realize this, either the positive aspect, or the aspects which have come in as talent or as luck for you, which has helped you in your life, you realize that basically you cannot be proud of them. And likewise, basically, once you know that these are your weaknesses, then you can't be just sitting in your corner saying, "Oh, uh, it has befallen upon me." But you've got to start working towards making life better for yourself, in that sense. I'll just show you a couple of slides again to bringing different context in terms of what is the way I see things, right? So this slide basically typically talks about khichdi, but khichdi in context to India. India is a big part of khichdi, which there's so much of diversity, culture, etc., and there's a big churn happening. And what we land up with, which I believe is a good dish, right? At the end of the day, it's a miracle. It's seriously a miracle of how such divergent cultures have come together, by sheer chance. And the chance is because of British rules 200 years, and we sought independence, and we got it, and we stuck together, and we're so far stuck very well together, as a nation, um, and we are thriving with in this khichdi. Again, the aspect of entrepreneurship, right? So here we have the big, uh, you know, Ambani at one end, and you have Mukesh Cook. So Mukesh Cook is actually the cook which comes to my house and cooks food daily, and he gives me this leaflet saying that, "Sir, can you pass this on to your friends, because I want to make an extra buck. My daughter's getting married very soon, and I need some more money." So I think all of us have got this aspect of making our lives better, and we are all entrepreneurs in nature, right? And you can see that on the streets of Delhi. You go to any of the gullies in towns and cities, you'll see people, setting up businesses day in and day out, succeeding and failing, and succeeding and failing, and some of them become Ambanis at the end of the day. Uh, this slide I typically show in context to the briefing which we get from most clients, right? And the aspirations which we have. We all want the same, but we want to be Hatke, at some point of time. Yeah. Again, in context to the diversity of our culture and the way we try and communicate, so this is a piece of instructions we found in a toilet, and somebody is trying to explain use of paper. Yeah, and this guy is trying to sell this blanket. But what you can see is that he's cheeky. But at the same time, there's this immense amount of confidence, and I think that's what we require. That there is immense potential in all of us, in the nation, in the culture, in the people, and we just need to present it very, very confident. And you can see the confident India coming through nowadays. And this is a slide I've been running for many, many years, and I think we don't need to explain this slide any longer. And we are in that progressive direction as a nation is concerned for across various parameters and platforms. Very quickly, I'm going to just talk about Lopez Design, briefly. So we basically are multidisciplinary studio, which is a full service studio, and we offer our services in strategy, design, and activation. Activation is when you actually put something on the ground and deliver it on ground, right? So we do all three, and activation normally happens with a partner or through a client, but we take responsibility of it also. I'll show you a couple of examples where we have delivered that on ground. And in terms of verticals, basically we are into branding, environment branding, packaging, digital, the gamut of digitals, and wayfinding in signage systems. So I'm going to show you 3 projects of mine, of ours. So the first one is related to the state of Odisha, and I'll show you how. So typically, all of us designers get projects because we are good at something or we are known to be good at something. So here, this particular client came to us because they thought we were good at creating identities and good at branding conferences, right? So this was an international organization, PMNCH, which came to us because they had a very large conference happening in India, and India was the host country, right? And there were 1,000 organizations, coming together across 77 countries, and their main business was about advocacy and for women, children, and adolescents, right? And this was the core thing. And India was the host country for this conference. So without going through the process of how the identity was produced, but this is what the identity looks like, and here what we did was used Pipli craft. So the influence came from directly from the Pipli crafts, which we had seen in the past and also on Google. And we said, why not use craftsmen themselves instead of creating an identity on Illustrator, which we normally do, right? And so we literally went to Odisha and met up with this group of women, and we stitched this logo together, and we photographed it, right? And this is what we showed our client both in India and internationally in Geneva. And it got an instant yes, because it connected with everybody concerned, right? It made sense. It took care of the narrative, which is the next slide. And it connected with everybody as people, right? And also the aspect of that we used fabric of life in that context, because again, roti kapda makan, and that what made perfect sense to everybody, right? So even the PMO office, which typically takes a long time to back and forth for anything to get approved, got instant approval. This is the close-up of what it looks like. This is the process, and you can see two of our designers really kicked at the end of the day. And it was not an easy task, because one very important aspect to consider about craftspeople is that craftspeople are very good at what they do, but they're very good at what they do repeatedly. They keep making the same thing throughout their life from one generation to the other, right? And that's what they become master craftsmen about. When you give a new design to them, then there's an adaptation process. So there was a lot of understanding from our side which had to happen to know how they can adapt at a quicker level, uh, and thereby produce a piece like this. Yeah. So another strategy which we had utilized for this particular conference, because the client had come to us in advance, about a year and a half in advance, and we told them that why don't you launch the identity a year in advance, so that you can run a program, in different countries to build traction towards this conference and its themes. So this was done 9 months, not 1 year before, and you have the PM of India inaugurating it or launching the identity. But soon we had a meeting in London after the launch of the identity, and they were trying to program how we're going to manage the conference and what all activities will be there, etc., etc. And I was one of the designer involved in context to the entire branding aspect. And I said that basically that this particular identity has got a huge possibility, of how we can take it forward in context to all the conference materials. And I said that, but we'll have to create a system for the craftspeople. So here, what we did was create different poses for children, for, say, in this case, men and women, uh, you know, which can be parents of these children. Yeah. And the system works very simply, where we say that we have motives or frames, which are on your extreme left. You have figures, and you have motives, right? And you take one of each and you create a story, right? And I now the story, because the moment I change any element, the story changes, and so on and so forth. So we have many possibilities of how we can tell the story. So, but for the craftsperson, they have honed in the skills of making these elements, right? And they become very good at it, right? And now they can make any story. So as designers, we can just have to pick up and create a composition, and they can easily make them. And you'll see how it unfolds going forward. So these are different stories, again, which are based on the themes. And then we told the client, this is how the entire system will unfold, right? So what you see on the left is basically a piece made by the people craftsmen. What we do for the conference is put some stickers on it, so it becomes a piece of communication and branding. And post the conference, we remove the stickers and it becomes a reusable piece. So in this case, it's a bed sheet. So this bed sheet can now be used as a bed sheet. You know? So repurposing, the concept of repurposing becomes very important. Now we were never hired to do this as designers, right? We were hired to create an identity, a logo, right? And an identity system in terms of how do we communicate. But can designers stress themselves, in context to how it gets applied at the end of the day? So here there was a unique opportunity, the way the whole process was flowing for us, and because it was a conference, and it allowed us to do something like this. And there was an opportunity. But I think us seeking for opportunities like this became a very important aspect to yeah, for us, and we took advantage of it in that sense. Yeah, just some more designs. Yeah, this was a large hall. This is the largest hall in Delhi, and so we had to create. So this is the backdrop for the registration and the kit distribution. So it was a very long desk. So what you see here is basically, again, design, everything was designed so that it could be repurposed. And because we had a very large audience coming from abroad, these are table runners, so they could just be removed and made into table runners. So this was a photo op just before the conference began. And then, of course, it became a backdrop for everybody to shoot. So this is during the conference. So every conference hall had a backdrop, and every backdrop was different from the other. But what you see here is basically, pillow covers, right? So they are pillow covers stitched together, uh, and of course we could repurpose them after the conference. We also made these bags, and these are non-branded bags. So there's typically, we also told the client that most nobody uses a conference bag after the conference because it's got the conference logo on it. So can we separate the logo from the bag, and the logo goes on the badge, you know, and the bag just has got your branding, but and the story. So people who know the story knows and connect with the brand, and for everybody else is a beautiful bag, right? And this bag became a huge success at the conference because we give them in brown paper bags. Nobody knew what color they were getting, and so there was this huge cheer and excitement. And what color did you get, and can we exchange and things like that, right? Uh, but also importantly, just 3 months back, I had a very big meeting with somebody senior, and he said, Anthony, I know you. You know, you are the people who produce the PMNCH material, and I still got your bag. You know, my daughter still uses it. You know, and that was exactly the intent of the repurposing in context, not only extending the life of a product, but extending the brand over time, right? So the conference typically dies with the conference. That's what happens with most conferences, right? People forget about it. But here, this person could still connect with the conference, and hopefully with what it intends, or the agenda, to remind people. So people are carrying the bags. People have got the table runners in their homes. They have the pillow covers in their offices, and all the senior delegates had the logo. They took back the logo because it's a crafted piece, worth hanging on the wall. This is the team. We had to work extremely hard to deliver this, and everybody in Lopez Design, uh, it was day and night, non-stop, because we had to make it happen, and it was not something which we do every day. We managed to get the, the, the Pipli women, into the conference, because it was very important for people to realize that these are the people who actually produced everything, and this is how they produce, because they're actually making it happen there at the conference. And this is Helga. This is the woman who trusted us through and through. So this is the final output again in context to the signage system. And just after the tea break, the last tea break on the second day, we started ripping up out all these signages. We smuggled in two tailors into Vigyan Bhavan, and we produced these cushions, and we put them into brown paper bags. There's a little story out there made by Pipli Crafts people of Odisha for the Partners Forum 2018. This product specially repurposed just for you. Savor the memories and champion these endeavors. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And the same Pipli women gave it to the delegates. So they were taking a piece of the conference. And later on, basically, a year passed, and they got another thousands of these bags produced, and they were exported to all parts of the world and given away to children delegates for various conferences, right? So just after the conference, basically there was the board meeting, and I requested for a 5-minute meeting, which they found very strange, because they thought that I was asking for appreciation. But I said, no, that's not the case. But I have something else to talk to the board. And again, they trusted me, and they gave me 5 minutes, which turned out to be half an hour. And this is the brief presentation which I made to the board, right? So, and I showed them, what all this design can further do for the craftspeople of people. You know, that it can create beautiful products for them, which it can go for commerce. So the whole idea was, can we give away the designs to the people, craft people, and give away the copyrights to it? And they immediately said yes, right? And we showed them this various designs which we had produced ourselves for commerce. But in the end, basically, so the exercise started as a branding project for us, for the partnership forum. We brought in the concept of handmade people craft, and use craft people for it. We designed a system which is proposed for commerce now, and the client has said yes. And we think that basically that if the system goes into place and the people can produce this design and can sell this design, there'll be economic growth for that region. And when there is economic growth, we all know that there can be multi-pronged sustainable impact. Now, the last two aspects are in question, because basically I had told the board also that the reason why I'm proposing this idea to the board is so that you, as influencers, can connect us to big clients or people like IKEA, and who will basically place an order, and they will be for the crafts people, and eventually there will be a big tie-up happening between and so far I can say that I've tried to whatever level I could try, and we have not succeeded in managing a big order for the people. So I'm hoping that somebody in this audience is listening from Odisha and could bring in the seed money for the crafts people to take this further, because that's how development happens. That's how impact happens. Now I'm going to show you another project, which is again in context to branding from a diversity perspective, a huge diverse nation of ours. So we got this project to design, an identity system in terms of visual system for all the health centers, 150,000 health centers of the country. And I was greatly troubled to produce a singular design, and we were almost producing it. The government already said yes to it, uh, but I just could not take it, because how can one size fit all? So I'm always troubled by this aspect of one size fit all, right? Because economics of scale always pushes us to do one size fit all. Okay, that's the way it works. That's the way it's most economical, and it works. So branding also something is built on the same aspect, right? Of that you have a single logo, single face to everything, and say, can we challenge ourselves with that thinking? Um, and one more challenge which we had was a physical challenge of these buildings, the health centers. There was very difficult for us to point out two health centers which had a similar fascia or the similar space available to create a design or a graphics around it, right? And we were almost going to land up producing the same flex banners or the painting banners, which would be narrow and constructed in terms of what all it could say. Yeah. And we produced this simple design. So we said, let's produce design it in a manner which it could accommodate itself to whatever space available. So we said that the artist just simply has to make a big circle which x centimeters or x inches bigger, and put the graphics in whatever communication illustration we need to put in. The circle needs to be spaced near a window or a door, and it should be this much distance away from it. Simple. And you make two parallel lines around it with this much distance, this much thickness, this color, simple colors. And what you do at the end of it is you just put in your own craft inside, your own craft which you know how to do very well as an artist or as a painter, right? And each painter is allowed to do what he wants to do, he or she wants to do, in terms of filling up these parallel lines inside is concerned. And you have a unique design. You have a design which belongs to that painter, which belongs to that culture, and which belongs to that village. So this is the simple design which we again was talking. We were trying to impress upon the minister, Mr. Nadda, at that point of time, of how this design is truly right um, for the health centers and for the nation. And we're showing him that one painter would do it this way, somebody else would do it, another way around, right? And this health center was the first health center was again inaugurated by the PM. So that design was produced by us in Chhattisgarh under high security. Yeah. And this is an example of, so what happened after the inauguration is we produced a simple brand manual, a simple manual, just telling people this is how we can do it, right? And it all went on WhatsApp, right? So to all the health centers across the country. And the mandate was given, can now paint your health centers. And so this is a health center from Chandigarh, and this is what we saw. So when I saw this, I mean, I was ecstatic, right? I had goosebumps on my hand to say that, hey, this is fantastic. What people have produced. I could not have imagined this design myself, but it talks about the power of creation in the hands of people who create, right? Who actually paint it and who own it. So everybody would say, "Ye hamara Raju ne paint kiya," and they would know Raju, and then so the whole aspect of again that's something which we all know about that health centers and the people basically are two distinct separate things. People don't think health centers belong to them, and thereby the sense of ownership is never there. It's always about, hey, how will I be treated? Will I be mistreated? Will this work for me? Because it's always about alternative medicine for them, right? And things like that. So they are constantly intimidated by health centers, and this is probably going to bring us one step closer to health centers. Yeah. And then we started seeing one after the other health centers coming up, and each one of them, had their own identity, their own character, you know. And we started seeing people taking photographs, selfies, and then eventually they have made a website which has just got all the health centers. As they come up, they publish it in this particular website. Yeah. So this is Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, Sikkim. So Sikkim distinctly looks Sikkim, but also what they did was they modified the illustrations. So the characters became very Sikkimese, which is fantastic. So normally designers really get upset when anything is changed. That's Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Mizoram, Rajasthan even went ahead and changed the colors. And and we did not have a problem with it, both from a strategic level and as designers also. Why? Because these villagers, this is the brand for them. They're not going to come to Delhi to see, how different is the health center. If they come to Delhi, they'll go to the to the Central Vista. They'll go and see the Rajpath. So this is the brand for them, and it works perfectly fine. Rajasthan. Yeah. Now I'm very quickly going to show you another project where context again, where we built an identity and a branding system for again diversity, creating a unique language, and this is for a commerce brand, right? For a commercial brand, it's say okay, using craftspeople, using different arts of India, to create identity is one thing. How do you do it for a commercial project where we are talking about extremely diverse audience within young audiences, youth? So this is about Nestway, and we rebranded Nestway. So Nestway is basically this is their old logo. So they are the fastest growing home rental network, and they're basically giving you accommodation, right? And they use technology as an enabler to connect and to register and all those things, which everybody does now. Uh, and and one of the things basically which the brand and the company basically noticed that migrants experience a feeling of unfamiliarity and strangeness when they go from a town to a city or from one place to the other, and the idea of making them comfortable and welcome was very very important and critical for them as a company and as a brand, right? So they say that if you take care of the basics, the youth can then pursue their aspirations and dreams and goals in a nurturing space. And basics is like, because most of them are young people, first time moving out of their homes from mama's care, mama's food, and moving out. So if you give them a so-called a home which is equipped, then that's the basics taken care of, right? And then you can move on from there. So what do? We give them comfortable stay, welcoming city, things to do, information, interact, so all these things. The entire program was designed around delivering these aspects to make people feel comfortable. Yeah. And then we realized that they actually take care of the basic aspects of human needs, right? And Nestway was handling those very basic aspects. And so they were in a fundamental position of providing that support. Uh, Yeah. So, and one aspect which we brought in strongly to say that thereby Nestway becomes an organization, we can provide platforms. But we said, we build open platforms where we don't dictate what you need to do, but we create, say, a playing field on which you can decide what you want to play, which game you want to play, and how you want to play it. You make, and the whole idea is about how to bring the sense of belonging, right? And I'll just show you how that happens in context to communication. And then these platforms are catalysts which enable young urban migrants to explore and create their own worlds. And we develop the whole value system. So this is the identity system. This is the presentation we made to the client, exactly the same. So we said, what are we providing? We provide people with a home, house. But it's about friends. It's about cooking, music and treks, concerts, yeah, tours, taking tours together, about celebrations, new friends. We are into a strange city, awesome destinations, smart connections. So this whole aspect of thin slicing is very critical to understand that we all belong to one tribe or the other, and these tribes are getting thinner and thinner as time progresses. Uh, so how does organizations allow those tribes to happen, and what systems do they create to make them happen? Inviting friends over, home sweet home, active community, impact the world. हिंदी में कहते हैं छप्पर फाड़ना. So this is the identity which we produced, very simple and straightforward. We didn't fix any color to it. We can say it can be in multiple color because the identity itself is strong. It doesn't need a color blocker. So the system which we produced was flexible. It was unique. It's a language in its own, you know, uh, and it belongs to Nestway. And it's not only a visual system, but it's a communication system because you put something inside here and you put something outside, and you create meaning out of it. So again, you take imagery or graphics or symbols, basically, which you are already familiar with, but you change the context or you build greater context out of it. How do you define rules, right? Boys not allowed after 8. Again, thin slicing. So this is basically meant for people who live in West Bengal or Calcutta region, where the mother does not allow you to go out of the house without a borderline in your bag, right? So this is a tongue-in-cheek to telling everybody from that region, okay, you can come to Bangalore because borderline is available there. Ja Simran ja, 8 baj chuke. Yeah, inclusive. Again, typically the whole system has been built so that this language can work in its own unique way. We also created a little brand book for all the employees. And again, typically this brand book is done differently. So it's a small pocket size book printed in 2 colors. So we are changing. We are changing how India lives, and so on. We pay a lot of attention to content and how content is delivered as a brand. So the typical manifesto becomes an ABCD. So A for affordable living, B for sense of belonging, C for supportive community, D for design led. But it's important how we have defined design for the client. And this is where we have influenced as a design studio, uh, influence the client. So we say we solve new challenges with creative strategic approaches, right? Empathy first, so on and so forth. So another interesting thing we did about this aspect is everybody talks about great heroes, right? And then we are supposed to follow those principles. So here there is Einstein who talks about being open-minded, and we say that okay, so everybody understands this, but we always say, "Par wo to Einstein hai," wo to Gandhi ji hai, type of thing. And I'm not Gandhi. So what we did was we told the client to pick up one person who exhibits this particular quality from Nestway. So Sai Baba Bora basically is that person in Nestway, which was chosen by the team, which exhibited these qualities, which Einstein also has. Likewise, humane and committed, Michael Jordan, Gandhiji. So we connected to the people of Nestway, and I think, and especially because this is a brand book meant for employees, it would add a lot of value in contextualizing themselves. And it ends with says basically my promise, the pledge I make, to make everyone feel at home. Yes, everyone feel what the customer feels always. Set the right expectation every time. Deliver what is promised, no matter what. Be simple and genuine as transparency builds trust. Be proactive always because small surprises bring smiles. Smile always as it can move mountains. And then you sign your name there. So this is the entire brand architecture in terms of the different products or services available under the brand. We created uniforms, we created jackets, because we always found the aspect of how people working for Nestway or serving customers at the end of the last mile do it with a sense of dignity, right? And how do people respect them in return? So how can we add that little value of, of so that people can respect them, or tend to respect them better. So these are people who would go, a plumber would go, right, to your home and repair something, right? And we try and bring in that value into their work or their worth, yeah, their backpack. So you have this. So this is not a guitar case, but this is a case which contains all the brooms and the jadu pocha and all those things, right? So these women or these men who go to homes, they actually carrying a guitar case, right? So it's like kind of interesting. And this idea is not ours. This is Nestway's idea, right? This is how we got a sense of what the brand was ourselves, and we took it back, you know, with us. So all the Nestway homes, basically, the client wanted this posters about Nestway and all, and I said, no, let's do away with posters, but let's have some part of Nestway in the homes, right? So here there are stickers which they have made and they put it on toilets in the boys' homes, right? So aim for the sky for now. Water problems in every city. So close the tap while you smile. Uh, Burrito blanket. You have to pay your own bills, but there's little reminder saying shut down before you step out. iCard talks about partnerships with, or treating your guest as kings, and then let's make history together. Why would somebody wear a cap, a branded cap? And here we've given good reasons. We made raincoats for them, made t-shirts. This is my favorite one. Another favorite one. So on and so forth. Merchandises. So we said everybody who connects with Nestway get these 6 patches, but you are not supposed to use it yourself. They are all giveaways, right? And so that means you have to spot the book lover, the child lover, the dog lover, the mirchi lover, the game lover, so on and so forth. Welcome kits for people who would join the Nestway family. A small little kit would have some heart sweets, so that a letter from the CEO. Again, this is all small sizes, right? It's got the key to your house. But the book works 2 ways. It says Nestway, the world of Nestway, our story, and the other way around it goes the world of Nestway, make your story. We designed the entire website, the app. We redesigned everything from scratch because we found that the way houses were sold was typically stereotype. We always had a happy couple out there jumping in midair, everybody smiling. We changed the stance. This is how their website looked. It's now changed. It's gone, many generation changes have happened, but they've still stuck to the same format. And it became the fastest website to download because it was purely vector based, and it just moved very quickly. We also produced a proprietary thing, which I still can't talk about, where basically the whole idea was how can we compete with you know a dealer, right, who tries to sell you a house, and he manages to give you a house at the end of the day because he understands you and your needs. So how can the website do that? So this is soon after the launch, and we had handed over everything, and we saw these GIFs popping up from the client side. It was near to Christmas, and so we were very kicked that hey, these guys have started using the brand and in ways which beyond what we had done, right? And they produced these beautiful GIFs. But we went to Jiffy and we checked out these GIFs, right? And then we realized that these GIFs are already hit 27 million in 3 months, and we were just shocked out of our wit, and we were hugely suspicious of the client. Okay, maybe they paid off some agency and got this done, right? So I called up the CEO and he said, no, we are not paid a penny. These jiffies are just taking off, right? And this is basically again going back to a conversation which I had with the CEO of the company, Amar, and he's told me that, Anthony, so we had done some 2 workshops with 2 agencies with their shortlisted to do the entire campaign, and both digital and the conventional campaigns, right? JWT and Mudra, and suddenly he dropped both of them, and he's saying we are going to spend no money in publicity and marketing, right? And I thought he was crazy, and everybody thought he was crazy because he was so kicked with the brand. It's in the brand itself will get his traction, right? And this 27 million at that point of time talked about that confidence of this person who believed in the branding system. Uh, but that 27.5 million today is 169.9 million, right? So I just looked at it yesterday and I realized that the number has gone to 169.9. That's a huge number for a commercial brand to get traction on its own, right? Without spending a penny. So in one of the conferences, when I brought Amar on board and I said, one should see your both sides of the story, right? the designer story and the client story. And I said, Aman, you spent so much of money on the branding. How did you justify it, right? And how did it get it back to you? He's saying, Anthony, just look at the figures of the Jiffies, right? If you take that one example and I add, $1 to it, that's the return I've got to it. And that was a fantastic answer, and it made me feel really great. Yeah. But one more big surprise which Nestway did for us is that when the website got launched, we saw that there was a page on the website which said, "Here are the people behind our new look," and it had my entire team out there, right? And they put our pictures there, and after our pictures, they had their pictures, and then the CEO and the rest of the team of Nestway who was part of this project came forth, and it never happened before in our lives, right? Where the client puts us up there, right? So that was fantastic. And this is the last slide which I want to show you before. And that last slide was very important for me because this work happens through a team. It's not me alone, right? Thank you. Over
Thank
to
you,
you,
Anthony.
Suresh.
Thank you, Anthony. We were hoping for a little cameo with Jennifer Lopez in the end, since she's so closely related to you and all. So, other than that,
Yeah, but we have had a tiff lately, so
all right.
sorry about that. Yeah.
Serious question though. Your work spans a really wide variety of genres, from the corporate world of Nestle and Nestaway to the works that you do with nonprofits. And is there a mindset shift that you do when you work for a corporate vis-a-vis working for a nonprofit or an organization? Are you two kinds of designer?
Uh, uh, I don't think so. For myself, to answer that question honestly, no. The answer is no. But the mechanics, how both systems operate on the other side are very different, right? So one has to, yeah, flow through those mechanics of how things work, and it's. I think both of them are equally challenging. Yeah.
And give us a little sense of your practice. A lot of students in the audience today may want to do a lot of projects like you're doing, but may also be worried about earning a living. How do you balance the so-called profitable projects with the so-called non-profitable but interesting projects? Do you have a formula?
No, I think we all have the survival instinct in us as human beings, right? कल का रोजी रोटी कहाँ से आएगा? How will there be food on the table? And I think the whole aspect comes from the single term called responsibility, right? When you talk about responsibility, you have responsibility towards your craft, your field, and you have responsibility to yourself and your family and your team, right? In that sense, so you got to make those things happen, and there are lots of factors which come into play. So one is being responsible, being committed, being professional, right? And you juggle the whole thing, and when you do that, and when you so initially, of course, you have a lot of stumbling blocks. You fail, you get up. So the great thing I say about young people that and if you're a student, then this is the time for you to start experimenting, doing things, failing, succeeding. And that's how you test yourself, because the whole thing is about life, is that you keep doing without falling off, but falling where you are, in that sense, if you know what I mean, that you are willing to get up and then again learn from it and move on, right? And that's what brought me here, very simply.
Okay, Tony. Final question for you. What's next for you?
What next? So I always put it this way, that uh, when people ask me what's the best project of yours, is the current project is my best project, because that's what I challenge myself. Because I do not know what I'm going to do next in that sense, and because I do not know, it's challenging enough.
All right, Anthony Lopez, thank you for that fantastic presentation. As you can see from the comments, a lot of inspiration being drawn from your work. And we hope to see you next year in person.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you. Right, members of the audience, thank you as well for staying with us through the day. I apologize once again for the tech glitches we had in the first half of today, but that happens sometimes when you curate an entirely online event. These things tend to happen. This brings us to the end of day one of the Odisha Design Week. I hope you enjoyed the sessions today. Tony is our last speaker for the day. Tomorrow's sessions will be hosted by Nina Bhattacharjee. Nina is a psychologist, management professor, TEDx speaker. I will be in the audience along with you. Good night, everybody, and stay safe.
Good night. Thank you.